Right now in South Korea, a truly disturbing and bizarre situation is actually unfolding right now. Imagine a man deep into planning his wedding, months of emotional investment, months of financial commitment, when his fiancée drops a casual, almost offhand bombshell. She informs him not during their courtship, not when they first discuss their future and family dreams, but when the wedding venue is booked, the catering finalized, and the invitations are already sent out, that she's had early menopause for a while. She knew this crucial life-altering detail, a detail that fundamentally impacts his lifelong desire for children, a desire they surely discussed. Yet she just forgot to mention it. What's almost impossible to believe is she actively held back this information, a literal deal-breaker for countless couples, until it felt almost entirely too late for him to back out gracefully, or even at all. He desperately wants kids, she tragically can't have them. And this inconvenient, devastating truth only emerges when his emotional and financial investment in the wedding, and in her, is at its absolute peak. It's a breathtaking level of calculated withholding, not just perplexing, but bordering on outright psychological manipulation in what should be a relationship founded on mutual trust and absolute transparency. The emotional whiplash, the feeling of betrayal, is unimaginable for anyone caught in such a trap.
Wait, why would anyone attempt something so deceptive? That's incredibly cruel.
That's the critical clue we absolutely cannot miss. The underlying motivation that drives such desperate acts. Why would anyone actually demand this level of commitment, knowing full well they withheld such a fundamental, life-altering truth? The real nature of this incomprehensible situation is, at its core, about basic, blunt human psychology interacting with a ruthlessly efficient, often brutal capitalist market, the marriage market. This isn't about some grand, sweeping romantic ideal you read in novels. It's a stark, cold transaction where everything, every personal attribute, every future possibility, even a woman's reproductive capacity, becomes a feature, a commodity in a product offering. When you believe your product, in this case yourself in the marriage market, has a significant, undeniable defect, but you're still desperate to make a sale to secure that future, you delay revealing that defect. You wait strategically until the buyer, the hopeful partner, is so financially and emotionally entangled, so heavily invested with deposits, family announcements, and dreams, that returning the product or breaking off the engagement becomes agonizingly difficult. In fact, it becomes almost impossible without immense personal and social cost. And here's the truly unsettling part. For some Korean women facing immense, often suffocating societal pressure to marry and potentially perceiving a diminished market value due to conditions like early menopause, this perceived defect becomes a harsh, undeniable reality they feel compelled to conceal. Their being in this context is shockingly reduced to a cold, calculated navigation of intense social expectations and crushing economic pressures. This leads directly to strategic concealment, a tragic byproduct of a system that grotesquely commodifies human relationships, where personal integrity and full transparency take a backseat to securing a deal, a perceived place in society. This isn't a fairy tale. It's an economic negotiation with emotional collateral. But this was only the beginning. What's almost impossible to believe is this kind of situation is not an isolated freak incident. It speaks to much deeper systemic societal mechanisms that allow, even encourage such behavior. So why does society react with such specific, often gendered outrage or empathy to these deceptions? In South Korea, marriage isn't just about two individuals choosing to spend their lives together. It's often perceived as a significant, almost corporate, merger of entire families, their assets, their social standing, and their collective futures. In this incredibly high-stakes merger, the prospect of heirs, of continuing the family name, the lineage, is a deeply ingrained, almost unspoken contractual expectation, especially for men and their families. It's not merely a personal desire or romantic hope. It's a foundational societal pillar, an expectation that, even if never explicitly discussed, underpins the entire institution of marriage. It's about legacy. The reason people are unanimously stunned and feel such profound betrayal is, imagine investing your entire life savings, every penny you've ever earned, into a startup, putting everything on the line for its promised future. Then, after you've signed all the contracts, transferred all your money, you discover the core technology they promised was never actually developed. It was a lie. You would feel profoundly cheated, completely betrayed, and legally defrauded, wouldn't you? Similarly, for many men entering a marriage with the fundamental expectation of forming a family with biological children, an expectation deeply ingrained by culture, only to find that possibility was deliberately, cruelly hidden from them, is a profound breach of trust. It's a fundamental violation of the unspoken terms and conditions of a lifelong partnership. an emotional, spiritual, and familial fraud. While other cultures worldwide also deeply value lineage and continuing the family name, the intensity here in South Korea is significantly amplified by an incredibly high-stakes marriage market and deep-seated anxieties about family continuity in a rapidly changing, often uncertain world. It's a pressure cooker.
So, this is basically just a business deal, right? And if something goes wrong, someone gets burned?
Here's what's truly shocking: the stark reality of what happens when these transactional relationships inevitably unravel. And what happened when this exact kind of behavior, driven by self-preservation within this harsh, unforgiving capitalist relationship market, actually played out. Predictably and almost comically, it backfired spectacularly, exposing a gaping chasm of hypocrisy so wide you could literally drive a freight train through it. The real twist that makes this even more unsettling is the glaring, undeniable double standard that immediately emerges.
If a man, imagine this, concealed male infertility until the very eve of the wedding day, there would be an immediate, universal outcry. He would be instantly and unequivocally labeled a deceitful liar, a conniving fraud, and everyone would be screaming marriage fraud, rightly stating that his fiancée had every conceivable right to escape that trap, that
Absolutely. That's a blatant deception. Grounds for annulment.
But here's where the narrative gets twisted beyond recognition, where the cold, calculating logic of capitalism shows its naive, dangerously contradictory demands. When the woman is the one withholding this crucial reproductive information, suddenly, almost instantaneously, some voices immediately pivot to an entirely different, incredibly empathetic tune.
Wait, so the reaction changes just because it's a woman? That's messed up.
Yes, exactly. Instead of the expected outrage, you begin to hear a chorus of understanding, even justification.
Oh, she must have been so incredibly scared to lose him.
and why is having biological children so profoundly important anyway? You can just adopt.
The expectation of absolute transparency, once considered non-negotiable and sacrosanct in any significant life commitment, becomes incredibly fluid. This contradictory demand that one partner must disclose all perceived defects while the other is afforded grace, understanding, and even societal protection for concealing them is the very definition of hypocrisy. It highlights with brutal clarity how, when the chips are down, the romantic ideal often shatters against the pragmatic, often brutal, realities of the capitalist-driven marriage market. This isn't just someone else's problem, it leaves everyone feeling profoundly cheated, especially the one who entered the contract under what turned out to be completely false pretenses, with a future built on sand. This isn't love. It's a transaction gone horribly, tragically wrong with devastating human cost.
So, it's really just about money and social status then?
That's exactly it. The chilling formula hidden beneath the surface is these situations expose the raw, unvarnished truths of how commodified human relationships can become. It's a stark reminder that when emotions are layered over fundamental contractual obligations and one party withholds critical, life-altering information, the fallout is devastating and deeply unjust. We are witnessing the dismantling of trust, not just between individuals, but within societal expectations themselves. This isn't just a personal story. It's a symptom of a much larger, more intricate web of societal pressures, economic realities, and moral compromises. The veil has finally been lifted, revealing how deeply entrenched these transactional views of relationships have become, and the immense pressure individuals face within them. But the real problem starts now, as society grapples with the consequences of these deceptive practices. Fuel the truth at dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.